Hey, it's Julie with Paradigm Interiors with Fridays with Julie. And today I am talking about balance and how you can use the design principle of balance in your home to create beautiful interior spaces. So the main thing about balance that you need to know is that there are three different kinds of balance. There is symmetrical balance, which is what most people prefer. It is utilized in traditional interiors and traditional design a lot. We are drawn to symmetry. But in nature and often in architecture, things aren't always symmetrical. And so particularly inside a room. And so when you have a space that feels awkward or maybe is, you have larger windows on one side of the room than you have on the other, you have to figure out how to create balance when there is inherent asymmetry. So there is asymmetrical balance, and that is going to be a really important use of balance in your own homes. And so one way that asymmetrical balance really comes into play is with sectional sofas, because the way that they sit in a room isn't really symmetrical. It's never going to be a really symmetrical look. So you have to figure out how to work with that sectional sofa if that's what you want to use, and create asymmetrical balance. So one of the ways that you can do that is just by looking at objects that have a similar visual weight to them as your sofa would, or as one arm of your sofa does. So a lot of times you'll see with sectional sofas that there are a couple of chairs placed opposite the long arm of the sofa, and that helps create some balance there. The other thing is, if something is asymmetrical, trying to use symmetry to help balance it out isn't going to really work. So you do need to, if you have an asymmetrical space, use the asymmetry and create asymmetrical balance. And so one of the images that I do want to show with you, so I'm going to share my screen, is these bookcases that I styled. And there's a little video, and you can watch the video. It's on my Instagram page, it's on my YouTube channel, and it's also on my Facebook page called How to Style a Bookshelf. But I do want to show you those pictures, the images, and to show you how I used asymmetrical balance. And typically when I style a bookcase, I use asymmetrical balance a lot, and how you kind of do it practically. So we'll go through the images here. There we go. So I tend to put all of the larger objects first, and I do those opposite of each other. So we have, the tall turtle shell on a stick. It's not a real turtle shell. No animals were harmed. It's a wood carving. And then to balance that out, I used these two vases. So they sort of have a similar visual weight to them. The turtle is a little bit taller. The bases are a little shorter, but because they're fuller at the bottom, they look similar in weight and in size. And then I did it again on the next shelf, and I move across the shelf, because if we're working with the asymmetry, then we're going to use the different those opposite sides to help with that balance. So again, I used another large object that has a similar visual weight to it as those vases do. And then on the final shelf, I used another large object, which is a little bit wider and a little bit taller than the figurine there, but It's bright silver. So, and the figurine is silver and black. So they kind of have a similar look to them. So you can use the colors, the dark and the lights to do that. And then the next thing is adding in your books. And of course, if you have, you know, asymmetry, one of the ways that you can create some balance is by, you know, doing similar things with the books on adjacent shelves. So with this particular bookshelf styling, I did standing books and I did laying books, which we'll get to those. Just a second. These are all edited. There we go. So now we have books that are laying down. So on the bookshelves below, I've got laying books and standing books. And then adding in to these vignettes, the smaller pieces that again kind of help provide that balance. So now if you notice when I added the books, it was imbalanced. There was a lot on the bottom on one side and a lot on the top on the other side. So what I want to do is create an overall effect and fill in some of those empty spaces. So we're going to use space and balance a lot with styling bookshelves and things like that. And so you can see with each shelf here, I like this picture because you can see the whole thing and how the whole piece then becomes very balanced and has a nice, you know, even look to it all the way down. So filling in the spots on the bookshelf with smaller objects that, you know, help create. So overall, the bookshelf has, you know, this asymmetrical balance where each side has books and objects that the visual weight of them balances each other out, even though it's not symmetrical, all the way, you know, within each shelf and then all the way through the bookshelf all together. So those are, you know, some quick and easy lessons for, you know, finding balance. You can balance things by using window treatments. Will help, you know, balance out your room, especially if you have uneven windows. You can use drapery panels to help, you know, hide some of the unevenness with windows that maybe you've got a large window one side and a smaller window on the other side, and they're not exactly evenly dispersed across the wall, which happens a lot because, you know, the architect wants the house to look good from the outside, and maybe there's a feature that makes the house look really nice on the outside with the windows, but on the inside, the placement's, you know, kind of awkward. Another example is rooms that are really wide and really short are sometimes hard to work with. With those, I actually do use an asymmetrical balance on the outside of those spaces and then symmetrical balance in the inside of the spaces. So that, like, here's a great example of how I used that, and it's in the blog post. So let me I'm going to just pull up the blog post. That's probably the easiest way to show. So the video will always, as always, every week, I put my videos on my blog posts. All right, let me see, because I know I published it. Awkward rooms. 3 tips for finding balance. So this is the blog post that goes with. So in this room, you can see that the bed itself and the nightstands, the art, everything is very symmetrical in this space. But when you look at the full room, we have a white couch to the right-hand side of the bed and a dark leather chair on the left-hand side of the bed. And then by the chair, we also have tall window treatments. That's in my portfolio, so I'll show you those too. We've got the dark window treatments, and all of that works together to create a symmetrical balance in the room, so the room itself doesn't look lopsided. So you see here, we've got the chair and the window treatments that add some visual weight to that side of the room. And on the opposite side of the room, there is a white sofa and a dark picture. And so when you look at the room as a whole, it doesn't feel like that little chair is sitting out there floating by itself, or that the sofa is, you know, bringing this additional weight to the right-hand side with nothing on the left-hand side to balance it out. So those are just some easy tips and tricks that you can use and ways that you can use balance, the different types of balance. If you want to dig a little deeper into the topic, absolutely go check out the blog post, and I'll have the link for that below. And otherwise, I will see you next week on Friday, Lunch with Julie. And next week we will be talking about scale, which is balance and scale really go hand in hand. So next week we'll sort of synthesize the two concepts and talk a little bit about how they work together. And also with scale is one of those principles that, you know, those are our design rules. Elements and principles are sort of the design rules. And scale is one of those design rules that if you know when to break it, it can really make your design outstanding. And so we're going to talk about one of the ways that I've been seeing designers sort of break the scale rule here lately, and that will be next week, and how you can use that rule or break that rule in your own house to create something really special. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.